Friends or sworn enemies? This is a shadow conflict. From allies to enemies, two nations, no shared border, no direct colonial history, and nearly 1,000 miles of desert and mountains separating them. Yet today, Iran and Israel are firing ballistic missiles directly into each other's territory. While often described as an ancient feud, these specific borders and the rivalries within them are recent inventions. In fact, for nearly 30 years, these two nations operated as quiet, pragmatic partners. To understand how they got here, you have to go back to the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. For over 600 years, this Islamic power controlled the region. When it crumbled after World War I, Britain and France stepped in to carve up the map, drawing borders that cut across ethnic and religious lines with little regard for the people living there. Britain took control of a territory called Mandatory Palestine. During the war, the British made contradictory promises. They offered independence to Arab leaders while simultaneously pledging support for a Jewish homeland through the Balfour Declaration. Following the Holocaust, international support for a Jewish state reached a peak. On May 14, 1948, the State of Israel was declared. Within hours, 5 Arab armies, Egypt and Jordan, Syria and Iraq, and Lebanon invaded. Israel not only survived the war, but expanded its territory beyond the original UN partition plan. For Israelis, this was a miracle. For Palestinians, it was the Nakba, the catastrophe. Over 700,000 Palestinian Arabs fled or were expelled, creating a refugee crisis that remains a primary driver of regional instability today. In 1948, Iran remained outside of this conflict. It was a Persian constitutional monarchy, ruled by the Shah, a modernizer focused on Western-style industrialization. Because Iran was not an Arab nation, it had no direct stake in the Palestinian cause at the time. Instead, the Shah saw a strategic advantage in a relationship with Israel, leading the two countries to cooperate on military matters and intelligence sharing. But this quiet partnership was built on a foundation that would be violently uprooted, transforming a neighbor into an existential threat. The shift began in 1953, when the CIA and British intelligence orchestrated a coup to overthrow Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh. He had nationalized the oil industry, threatening British profits. The West restored the Shah to absolute power, but the move left a legacy of deep resentment toward foreign interference. That resentment boiled over in 1979. A mass revolution toppled the Shah's government, forcing him into exile. In his place, a radical theocracy emerged, led by Ayatollah Khomeini. Almost overnight, Iran's foreign policy reversed. The new revolutionary government branded the United States the Great Satan, and Israel its illegitimate ally. The Israeli embassy in Tehran was promptly handed over to the Palestinian Liberation Organization. When Iranian students stormed the American embassy in Tehran and held 52 diplomats hostage for 444 days, any chance of reconciliation with the West vanished. Hostility toward Israel became a permanent pillar of Iranian revolutionary doctrine. In 1980, Iraq invaded, triggering an 8-year war that cost over 1 million lives. Iran fought nearly alone, while much of the West backed Iraq. This isolation convinced Iran's leaders that they could never rely on foreign support for their security. Lacking a powerful air force or modern conventional army, Tehran developed a forward defense strategy. They would build and fund a network of regional militias to fight their enemies far from Iranian soil. The center of this strategy was Hezbollah in Lebanon, founded in 1982 with direct Iranian funding and training. Over the next 40 years, this ring of fire expanded to include Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, and militias in Iraq and Syria, all serving as a deterrent on Israel's borders. This proxy doctrine allowed Iran to wage a continuous, low-level war against Israel for decades without launching a single missile from Iranian territory. Israel responded with a shadow war of its own, primarily targeting Iran's nuclear program. Through covert sabotage and the deployment of the Stuxnet computer virus, Israeli and American intelligence physically destroyed Iranian nuclear centrifuges from within. Diplomacy briefly intervened with the 2015 nuclear deal, but after the US withdrew in 2018, the constraints on Tehran vanished. Iran accelerated its enrichment program, and the cycle of assassinations and cyber attacks resumed with renewed intensity. the shadow war was becoming impossible to contain. By the early 2020s, the frequency of Israeli airstrikes in Syria and Iranian proxy attacks had pushed both nations to the edge of an open military confrontation. The collapse of the shadow war began on October 7, 2023. The Hamas-led attack on Israel and the subsequent war in Gaza immediately activated Iran's entire proxy network, from Hezbollah rocket fire to Houthi attacks on global shipping. Israel countered by decapitating the proxy leadership. In a massive intelligence operation in September 2024, thousands of Hezbollah pagers and walkie-talkies were detonated remotely, crippling the group's communication and injuring thousands of fighters. Days later, Israel struck Hezbollah's main headquarters in Beirut, killing Hassan Nasrallah, the group's leader for over 30 years. In a single strike, Iran's most powerful regional deterrent was effectively dismantled. When Israel bombed an Iranian diplomatic mission in Syria, killing several high-ranking generals, Tehran faced a choice: watch its regional strategy fail or strike back directly. Iran chose to retaliate, launching hundreds of drones and missiles directly from Iranian soil at Israel. The era of the shadow war was over. The two nations were now in an open, direct conflict. Verified history ends here. Given the current trajectory, military analysts are now projecting what a full-scale regional war might look like if the current escalation reaches its logical conclusion. This scenario, dubbed Operation Epic Fury, involves a massive, coordinated air campaign. U.S. stealth bombers and Israeli jets would strike targets across all 31 Iranian provinces, focusing on missile silos, state broadcasters, and command centers in Tehran. These strikes would likely trigger a wider collapse of regional order. In response to an attack on its soil, Iran's doctrine calls for strikes against U.S. allies in the Gulf. This would likely draw the UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan into the fighting, as Iranian missiles target supporting nations. The ultimate escalation would be closing the Strait of Hormuz. Because 1/5 of the world's oil passes through this choke point, a blockade would send global energy prices into a crisis, forcing a worldwide economic shock. Today, the Middle East is still burning, and none of these outcomes are yet certain. But the buffer of the shadow war is gone. The current violence is the culmination of a century of momentum, from broken promises of colonial powers to the ideological earthquake of the 1979 revolution. After decades of circling one another through proxies and assassinations, Iran and Israel are now locked in a direct confrontation. Whatever happens next, the relationship between these two nations and the region they inhabit will never return to the status quo.